Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coach's Corner. I'm your host, Paul Tripoli, along with my buddy, Coach Mark Hobley.
Peace.
Hobbs, I call him Coach Hobbs. Coach, we coached against each other, I guess, quite a few years, didn't we? And with Bennett, Mike Bennett.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh, we had a blast.
Fun.
We had a blast. Thanks for watching the show, brought to you by Hill Kelly Dodge. We have a special guest, Victor Floyd. That's right, PHS Tiger, FSU Seminole, and now coaching and teaching for many years. Vic, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Man, let's start at the beginning. I grew up here in Pensacola. Talk about your mom and dad and your any siblings.
Yes. Mom and dad are both from Pensacola, Florida, of course. And mom and dad both went to Washington, Booker T. Washington High School. And
all right.
And grew up right there in what they call Shantytown at the time, right. Not too far from Inglewood Center. And so my dad is deceased. He passed away about 20 years ago, and mom is still living and kicking and giving us trouble. So she just turned 80 years old back in May. So kudos to that, and I got I have three other siblings. I have it's a unique thing. It's two brothers, and I got two sisters, two brothers, and we all 3 years apart, and we go girl boy, girl boy.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Holy mackerel! So you can have a whole.
I don't know if it was planned out that way, but that's the way it took place and happened, and so I'm next to the oldest. So me and my middle sister I have the best of both worlds. So my brother's my baby brother, and my middle sister say we always tied together. My older sister say we the two older siblings that take care of the two young ones. So
okay, that's awesome.
So did your brothers and sisters, any of those play sports? Any of them play sports?
My oldest sister, she ran track. When she all the way up to her senior year, she found out she had a C-spine. She was quite a sprinter at Pine Forest High School is where she went at first. And then she ended up graduating when we moved back in town. And she graduated from Pensacola High School. And then my younger sister was in the band at Pensacola High School, and she did a little track. President Smith got her to do some tracks. He thought since all the Floyds was fast that she was fast too. But I think it might have skipped a gene or so far as the speed. But she ended up getting a height. So, but she was in the marching band there at Pensacola High School. And then my younger brother, Dwight, he went to Pensacola High School and played football and baseball. And ran a little track at Pensacola High School, and then he decided they was comparing him too much to me, and so he wanted to leave Pensacola High School. And he went to Pine Forest, and his senior year, he was ruled ineligible for the transfer, so he didn't play his senior year. He kind of set off, and then going into his senior year, my dad passed away, so he went through a little something with that experience, and he came and graduated here in Orlando with me. I moved him here to Orlando. He graduated from here with me, and my sister lives in Atlanta. My middle sister lives in Atlanta. My brother and my older sister still lives in Pensacola.
Wow. All right. Talk about your high school career. Were you you played multiple sports?
I did.
Talk about your first love, your high school coaches, and your teammates at PHS.
People don't. I actually played baseball, football, basketball, and ran track in high school.
Four sports,
never was a dull moment for me. And but kind of skipped around a little bit because going into high school, I went to which was then the Pony League World Series down in Key West. So my 9th grade year, I didn't play at football at Pensacola High School. So I went and played with some of my friends and played Pop Warner and at West Pensacola. So I started there. So I played football at West Pensacola, and before that, I had played the same guys when I was 12. I had played at Bellevue, played football with some guys from Pensacola High School. So, and that happened. And of course, I had dislocated my shoulder when I was 14. So my parents thought I would be a first-round draft pick in baseball. So they was like, no more football for you, buddy. And so that's what that drought that I didn't play until my senior year in football. Of course, I played baseball all 4 years. I ran track 3 of the years when I was at Pensacola High School, and played basketball as well. So you just playing 4 sports. And then, of course, I started making more decisions as I got toward my senior year. The group of guys I had played Little League with was, of course, playing varsity football. It was their senior year. I went out my junior year, talked my parents into letting me go play my junior year, and was doing fine, of course, on offense. But I wanted to play defense. I was a two-way player. And my cousin at the time, Zedric Freisen, was the running back for Pensacola High School. We was on the same team. It had been our first time playing together. And he broke the long run, and I ran him down. And as I was snatching him down, my shoulder popped out again. So I ended up missing my junior season to play football, and I had surgery that off season.
Wow.
So I had surgery, and I was supposed to be out until the fall, but I ended up playing in the spring jamboree. I talked my parents into letting me play, and of course, Ronald Stallworth was a All-American at Woodham High School at the time. And when all the coaches came to see him play, they saw this little skinny kid from Pensacola High School playing, because we played against Woodham. And from then on, the rest was history. I was Leo Cavalis was the head coach at that time. Carl Madison had just came in, rest his soul. He just passed away, I guess, a year ago or so. So he came over, and he was a big influence in asking me. He saw me out there. They was running 40s for timing in the 40. And I was at the time giving guys a few yards and telling them I could beat them in the 40. He asked me to play football again, of course. And that's when I, talked to my parents about it and had surgery. And so, but I did it, played on the basketball team. And Coach Pollard was my baseball coach at Pensacola High School. My last 2 years, he came in and he was my baseball coach, and played baseball and had some success, there in baseball. So people was wondering which one was I going to do, because my senior year in football was good. I had a good senior year in football. So a lot of people just didn't know which one I would do, football or baseball. And then my mom came to me one day and said, "Hey, look, a guy by the name of Lebo Powell had played baseball there in Pensacola and was a great baseball player. I had a chance of playing Little League baseball with him, and my parents knew of him. And they didn't think things pan out the way they should have been in the minors with adults. And you're this 18-year-old kid with a 35-year-old baseball player. So she said, "Hey, look, you're going to go to college and play. You can play baseball and do it all in college." So that's how I ended up not even choosing baseball, which was really my first love.
Okay.
Yeah, people don't know that. Yeah.
Oh, that's why you and Dion clicked, right? You love of both sports.
Most definitely. So, it's a story behind that, of course. But went to Florida State. I wanted to earn my job there, so I ended up, just signing with Florida State out of high school, and they even didn't entertain anything far as baseball scouts. I had talked to several scouts, but just never really entertained it. They knew I was going to college and I was going to play, all three sports.
Football at FSU. Talk about the recruiting process. Yeah.
But I just like to I just like to interject that Vic played for me one summer, and remember you were using the wooden bat and stuff like that.
I knew you was going to bring that up.
Yes. You're talking about the scouts. The scouts. Victor Floyd was a baseball player. He was considered a very, very good baseball player. You skipped over the part where he said they thought he was going to be a first rounder, and he had people really looking at him. So take this serious about what he says about baseball. This is a baseball guy.
So, yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about Deion and baseball in a little bit, but talk about Bobby Bowden getting recruited and why football. If you love baseball so much, was Coach Bowden going to let you play baseball as well as football there?
Yes. Well, once I don't know if he was initially at first he was tuned in to me playing baseball. He because at the time he wanted guys, I think, to kind of lock in and make sure I was going to focus. It was a guy that was there, Eric Mangum, who had played at Florida State, and he was a two-way player. He played both baseball and football, and he left football and went and played baseball. So I'm sure he didn't want that to happen with me saying I wanted to play baseball. So when I was being recruited, Pat Dye came into the house and told me initially, he said, "Hey, you a baseball player, and we're going to let you play baseball. We got a guy there by the name of Bo Jackson, and he plays both sports, and definitely will let you play both sports." So my parents that day was sold on, me going to Auburn, and I had been that off during the season. Carl Madison used to come and get me, every Saturday morning. He took me to about at least 3 Auburn football games on Saturday.
Wow.
So they was recruiting me at the time, and of course Ronald Stallworth was being recruited by Auburn as well. So I went to a Florida State game. I went and seen Florida State and Auburn play, Auburn, Florida. I went to quite a few Auburn games, I should say. So I was kind of locked on Auburn until, of course, everybody else started coming around, and then Bobby Bowden came in, and when he knew, my dad mentioned, Pat Dye came and sat here and said he could play baseball too as well. And then, of course, Bobby said, well, he can play baseball, at Florida State as well. So went there, between Auburn and Tallahassee. I just felt more home. And there, Bobby Bowden, of course, was great. Pat Dye was a great guy. And Florida State was just a place I felt home. And, of course, that Southern drawl, I think, kind of stole my mom's heart, too, as well, with Bobby. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, he could. Yeah, the Coach Ryan would always do that, too. The secret is the mamas. The mamas.
Oh, yeah. And Bobby said I most definitely would be going to church. So she was like, "Oh, that sold her right then."
Oh yeah, absolutely awesome. You rushed for over 1,500 yards at FSU in '85 and '86. '87. Did you get injured in '87, Vic?
I did. I was going into that season. I played. Of course, I was playing baseball at the time. So we was in off-season training. We was doing what was called mat drills at Florida State. So I was jumping ropes.
It was 6 in the morning.
Got like a little stress fracture. Got better. I went out, was playing baseball at the time, and I was leaving baseball practice one day, and they was having spring football practice. So I stopped by just watching practice, and Billy Sexton asked me to run some routes to kind of show the guys who was out there doing routes. I wasn't involved in spring at the time, and I was in baseball spikes running routes out of backfield. So the stress fracture, my foot just started bothering me more, and I just think at that time, so I kind of set out. I ended up missing. We was getting ready to go to the World Series at Florida State. So I ended up missing the World Series that year because of the stress fracture in my foot. A lot of people don't know it, but I cracked the lineup at Florida State and had become a starter. We split in time, become a starter. I I was hitting at the time. I was hitting over 400, and so I was having a pretty good baseball season. My
Coach,
junior year.
Well, Victor, people don't realize how very, very good ball player.
All right, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, Hobbs. Let's talk about baseball and Dion. You and Dion in the Soul Patrol. You played baseball with him. I think Dion is the third best athlete in the history of this country. Okay, I think Jim Thorpe is number one, and Bo Jackson two, and Deion Sanders is three. But you talk about Dion, what you learned, what you taught each other, man. Because folks, we're talking with Victor Floyd, PHS Tiger. He was an honorable mention All-American in 1985, rushed for over 1,500 yards. Talk about your relationship with Dion and tell us a story. We love Dion.
Jess was great from the time he came in as a freshman. I was a redshirt freshman at the time. In the same game he started in, Bobby started sixth freshman in the game that we all started in together. It was me, him, Chip Ferguson, a couple other freshmen that we had that all started. And that's he was a true freshman. I was a redshirt freshman.
Right.
And, just from that time, great teammate, player. The thing people don't understand is Dion didn't do a lot of talking when he first got there. I think, and, some people might argue, but I think the mom was the one who used to push him out there and kind of tell him, things to say. When he was in the crowd with the guys, he would talk, but it wasn't like he was real talkative. Right. So, but he would get these quotes that he would say a lot of times. I would be like, man, where did that come from? And I think his mom was kind of sliding in quotes to say, when he was getting those things. So I think she kind of created prime time in the sense. She
was a motivator. Yeah, she was the motivator behind that moment.
Oh yeah, so she would tell him, you don't take second to nobody, baby. You go up there.
Well, that's how Michael Jordan. Hey, that's how MJ. The story about Michael Jordan. It was his mother that made that deal. His strong mother that made that deal. So same with Dion. Hobbs had a question for you, Vic.
Hey, when you talk about, did you ever hear that Dion had a grandmother that lived in Pensacola around the Wedgwood area, and he would come to Pensacola sometimes during the summer, and people around here say they knew him, and he was extremely quiet.
I've never heard that he had people from Pensacola. I will find out. I'll find out and ask him about it.
Did he have a grandmother that lived in the Wedgwood area? Yeah, please find out.
Yeah, no, I'm from Pensacola. He never told me he had anybody from the hometown. I just knew of Fort Myers and him being from Fort Myers. But we both when I first got to Florida State, I was trying to earn a position, so I didn't go out for baseball right away. I wanted to earn a job first, and because football was what was paying my ticket there.
Right.
And of course, that first year, Bobby asked me, was I going out to play baseball? And I said, well, no, I'm gonna go through spring because I wanted to earn a job.
Right.
And once I went through that spring, that season, and then Wayne McDuffie, I think they had got together maybe and said, he our starting tailback now. We don't want him out there playing baseball right now. So they asked me to run track. And I went and ran track that next offseason. And then, of course, Dion, we all was sitting around, and I said, man, you play baseball in high school. And I said, and I play baseball. We need to go out there. So Ronald Lewis was my roommate at the time. So me, Dion, and Ronald Lewis, all three of us went out. Ronald's from Jacksonville, and he played baseball as well. So all three of us went out there and started playing baseball.
Wow.
Yeah. And is that how the Soul Patrol started?
That's it. So we went out three. All three of us went out there, and we had three football players that would be lined up in the outfield at the same time at Florida State. Yeah.
The fastest, were y'all considered
fastest outfield?
Hold up, in the world.
The world.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Were y'all considered the fastest outfielder outfield in the world?
At that time, we were most definitely we had we most definitely had 3 guys out there in outfield that ran 4.4 better. So at that time, but the part about it was we was playing Memphis, in Memphis in the baseball game, and so we had shift the field and to a right, and the ball was hit, and I was playing left, and the ball was hit like on the track. So I got over, I sprinted over there to the tracks. Nobody else would have probably got to that ball from where we was shifted at. So when I ran and got over there, it was a pitcher's mound that I had to run over. And when I ran over the pitcher's mound, it was kind of going up and down. The ball hit me right square in the chest when I was putting my glove up, and it fell. So when I got to the dugout, Mike said, now, anybody else would not have gotten to that ball. So I can't be mad that you dropped it over there out of bounds. But if you don't make that effort from now on, make sure you catch it. Pulling the shirt down and looking at my chest like, did it bruise you on the chest or something like that? So he said, if you can get from where you were, I was like on the other side of, like almost in center field, like shortstop. And behind on the other side of the shortstop when I ran out of bounds over to the other side to get it. So then he said at that time, if a ball ever drops in the outfield with you 3 guys out there, I'm gonna run you to death the next time.
Tell a story about Dion, because I know he had great athletic ability, but the intangibles, a lot of people don't understand. I've been doing the show 14 years, and I've asked hundreds of guys talent or intangibles, and all the great ones say intangibles. What intangible did Dion have that separated him from all the others?
He had a knack for just working and fielding. I mean, it's just some things. I saw Dion make a catch, and you would think it was one like Willie Mays have made, just running and just over the shoulder catch. So the fielding part of it, I used to always brag about my bat, but just his get off when he got ready on defense, and people saw it when he was in the league and just playing. He just had a knack for just fielding, and his work ethic was unbelievable. So
let's talk about that, because that goes unseen. All the work in the dark where nobody watches you, there's no fans, there's no lights, there's nobody hollering for you. That's where all the work is done, and people don't realize that to get to that level, you have to put in the work, and they think it just comes natural. But guys like that have a great work ethic.
Yes, he does, and it's all this. During the spring one year, at the beginning of the spring, when I came off my foot injury my senior year, when I broke my foot and came back my senior year, for the spring, I went and moved to receiver. So I was playing receiver. So, of course, my releases was different than those other guys that was out there at receiver. So Dion lined up against me when we was out there, and I made a move to get off the ball and beat him on a couple of releases. So every time we would do the release, he would call me up there and tell me to actually, do it. I was there for about a week, and then they moved me back over there with the running backs. So since I wasn't over there, we stayed next door to each other, and he called me in the back and said, hey, man, come back in the back for a minute. And we went to the back of the apartment complex, and he said, now I'm lying. He said, now do those releases on me. And I was just doing the releases like on it, and he was like, oh, okay. And I said, you know what? You want to try to get my moves down pat so you can jam me up in practice when we play. That's the way he was. He was the guy that he wanted to work his craft. Yeah. And if there was somebody I can imagine him going up against Jerry Rice every day. That him and Jerry probably was going one-on-one, because he was like, wait a minute, this guy can beat me off the ball, or he can do. I'm gonna keep going against him until I win.
Find out why and how. Yeah, find out why and how. Learn. He was always wanting to learn. Your ego's not so. Everybody thinks you got a big ego. No, if you had a huge ego, you wouldn't be asking everybody all these questions.
No, and I wouldn't have been out there that day working on releases as well.
That's right. All right. So you were an 11th round pick in 1989 NFL draft. You got drafted by the Chargers. NFL stood for not for long when I was in the NFL.
Yes.
But you played in talk about the Chargers. Was Junior Seau there? Was Blaze Winter there by any chance?
We had Billy. I was there in '89. Billy Joe Tolliver was our second round draft pick. He was a quarterback, and he got hurt in preseason, and so we got a trade with Jim McMahon, and Jim McMahon ended up coming to San Diego at the time. So Jim McMahon was our quarterback. And I have a story about him. He's a wild guy that was there at the time. But we had Billy Ray Smith and Gary Plummer was our linebackers that ended up playing with being traded to the 49ers and end up winning the Super Bowl with the 49ers. But those were our inside backers at the time. 2 Pro Bowlers that we had. Lee Smith. Lee Smith Lee Williams was our defensive tackle. He was a first rounder.
Hey, Vic.
Yes.
Lee Williams is my best friend.
Well, he was with me.
Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. Yeah, he was in San Diego at the time.
Yes, yep. Lee out of Bethune-Cookman.
Right, that's correct.
So when I saw you in Orlando, I was hanging out with Lee Williams back in Fort Lauderdale. Me and his brother worked at Boyd Anderson together. So I'd hang out with Lee Williams during the weekends.
All right.
Big Lee.
Yeah.
Oh, what a D line those guys had.
Big man. Lee. Tell him about tell Lee was what, second in the AFC in sacks one year in like 95 or something.
I don't remember the stats like right offhand. They tell me it might be CTE. I'm not sure, but
well, you've gone through.
I was there in San Diego. It was a short stint. Actually, people. I ended up when I left San Diego. I got injured while I was in San Diego, and that's how I was put on the practice squad. We were playing Houston and got a deep thigh bruise at the time, and we had came off a horrible game. Of course, I had a horrible game, and Dan Hennings was actually pushing for me to actually become like the every down back at the time. He mentioned it in the meeting, and then I dropped the ball and had a horrible game. It just seemed like everything that could go wrong when I was there was happening, and then I had a deep thigh bruise and win a couple of games, and then that's when they didn't put me on injury reserve because I didn't report the injury. So that's what people don't know. After the game, I didn't go and report that injury, that I had a deep thigh bruise. I went home and was just thinking it was just a bruise or whatever, and not reading the contract said any little bitty injuries you have, you're supposed to report those. So when I went there, I had to get an injection, and I ended up being on a practice squad the rest of that season. And so,
you went to the World League of American Football, right? You played Sacramento, New York, New Jersey Knights, even in the Arena League. Talk about all those experiences, and I think that's where you met Billy Owens, the great Billy Owens, Pittsburgh, Syracuse native.
Yes, I tell people I played in all the leagues. I was just the World League was fun. I played like you said, in Sacramento, and was there. And the second year when I was going to Sacramento, of course, I had an ankle that was bothering me, so I went to what was called where they sent injured players in Dallas. And so when I was at that first year in Sacramento, I left and then I went back. My ankle was injured, so I was released and sent to Team Dallas, where the injured players and practice players were at the time. Then once I got healthy, that's how I ended up in New York, New Jersey. But Billy was my roommate in Team Dallas. So we both was there, and we were roommates for 6 weeks in Team Dallas, and then he left because his first year he played with the Orlando Thunder. And then we both was in Team Dallas. And when he left, I went to New York, New Jersey, and played with New York, New Jersey Knights. And he went and played with Montreal. And then the first game I played with New York, New Jersey is against Montreal. So we play against each other. So
yeah, that's fun.
But I got a couple of clips when I was running the football against him. Somebody just so happened to take action shots, and it looks like I'm really getting the best of him.
Yeah, you got an action shot against Billy because he played safety.
So
his show
that
was
was fun. And then of course, when in that off season we came back to Orlando, and I didn't, Billy told me he lived in Orlando as well, so we just connected. My in-laws were educators, and I was. So at the time in the off season, I used to go out and mentor the kids at Hungerford, where Deacon Jones actually went to school. And so Hungerford, I was going there to mentor in the off season. And my mother-in-law was the principal at the time. And she said, well, what you going to do in the off season? And you might as well get into education and do some coaching and stuff. So I was coaching with my father-in-law. And Billy at the time I think he was working at UCF in the off season. And so then he got into education and started teaching as well. And to make a long story short, I became the head coach at Agape Christian Academy. And Billy came over and was my defensive coordinator. So we coached together. And then,
that way you share your talents, and pass it on through coaching. I want to talk to you a little bit about coaching. And still maybe we can get a Bobby Bowden story or something out of you, or Deion story. But coaching, I didn't start coaching until I was 45. Hobbs, you started almost right out of college.
Yes.
So you're around it for 30 years.
You were smart.
Yeah.
Well, I had some good players like Vic. Hey,
I know, right?
That was fun.
But I mean, the impact you have on others, coaching is much more important than being selfish and being a player.
Yes. And that's the enjoyment that I get out of it. I've worked both in the private sector and in the public schools, and I mean that's what it is. It's just to see the changing lives, of young men and teaching them and mentoring them, and it's a little bit more valid when it comes from somebody who they think of or they see who has been there.
Right.
You're telling them the approach that it is that it takes to actually to get there. It's not just athletic ability and that talent. It's it takes the classroom. It takes good morals and character that to get you where you want to go. And if if you tell kids all the time, I tell them all the time, shoot for the moon, because even if you miss, you'll still be amongst the stars. You might not be that that's that guy that's the top guy. People look and say you played in the NFL, but then all the kids Google you and say, well, wait a minute, you only had this many carries or whatever. I say the thing is you're there. You're making the team. That's what let me help me. So that's what I get most. And I've been fortunate to have a couple of kids, that's been to college and played at the college level, and some that scratched the surface of the NFL and some other things, track and field. So
you've had a beautiful life, a great story, Victor, man. I mean, just a beautiful thing. You've gone through a lot. You had a lot of hurdles to overcome. You had a lot of journeys. The road wasn't easy for you, even as a player. And that's good examples for your kids, and that you coach. That's awesome. I mean, we're just so. Do you keep track of your Seminoles? Do you and Deion still stay in touch?
I talked to Deion. We had a teammate of ours that passed away about a year ago. Keith Ross. He was a running back at Florida State when I was at Florida State. And so I got to see Deion, during that time. Deion was in my wedding. When I got married, he was one of my best men in my wedding. So people say I had Sammy Smith was in my wedding as well. So I had two first rounders. That was in my wedding.
Hey, we got 11th rounder here, surrounded by two first rounders. Hey, it's all ones. You can
Yes,
say
all
you
one.
were
So
two number ones. That's all.
In the wedding, it wasn't. It was supposed to have been a special day for me, but everybody was looking at those guys.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
as a football player. So
Oh
that's
my gosh.
but no, we we stay in contact. Some of the things, hurdles that he go through is the time that we talk. A few years ago, we was starting and you probably will see it on Facebook. I forget, Pat Carter's probably on the Pat Carter's page, but we all just did a live Zoom, and we all were on that Zoom just talking, and that's some of the things that, of course, we do. With his busy schedule, when he got sick, of course, call him, and he's one of them guys that'll call you right back. When they came down here, when Colorado came here, and he ended up stopping here, playing here. Of course, I went over and talked with him then. So we talk, it's not an everyday thing. When we talk, we probably talk for hours and trying to catch up all of that time. But with his schedule, just busy. If I ever reach out to him, just call him.
Yeah, it's one of those friends you don't talk to him for a while, but once you're with him, it's like you never left. You're just old buddies, right?
Yeah.
That's how it
So
is.
we all hung out up in Gainesville. Like I said, about a year ago when he came over to Keith Ross service. And so we got to sit and chat a little bit then.
I've studied when I coached for 20 years, and I played for some really great coaches. So I studied coaches. I wanted to be a better coach, so I studied great coaches. And Bobby Bowden was one that I studied. I read his book, The Wisdom of Faith. It's a great, great book. He was a great man. He was a great coach. What do you remember most about Coach Bowden? Was it the life lessons he would come in and tell every day at team meeting, or what was it about him?
That was it. The thing is from just meeting Coach Bowden and being around Coach Bowden, the thing is that more than anything, that he was a Christian. So that Christian faith, I think, is really what draws the players to him. He really leads by example. He don't have to sit down. I never had to sit down and Coach Bowden to tell me his history. By the way, he just led was, by example. We got guys that we had coaches had different type of personalities. Mm-hmm. But when they all were around Coach Bowden, you could see those personalities would cater to him. And the kids, us as players, would cater to him as well. We could be rowdy in the lunchroom or in the cafeteria or something. And he walked in, things kind of straightened up. I mean, from the language to your character.
Oh, yeah, you just sit up. Yeah. I know the respect. I noticed that. You brought that up. That's a great story, Vic. I remember my first day at Alabama. I was from upstate New York, but the Manners and the Christians down south were high in number. And the respect that they had. So when Coach Bryant came in the room, I was still slouched back in my chair, and every one of those kids stood up like this. As soon as Coach Bryant walked in the room, I'm like, holy cow. I mean, he just demanded respect. That's what it sounds like with Coach Bowden.
Yeah. And his memory. I mean, I was around him, me and my wife, when he was here, he came to Orlando, and they had an event here in Orlando with him, and that he was here, and I guarantee you, Coach Bowden hadn't seen my wife in 20 years. And she walked over to him without me. And he knew. He was like, well, Faye, how are you doing? And it just blew her away. And that guy's mind and memory of people that he can remember. And he has several players and that he's coached, hundreds of players that he's coached over the years. And I guarantee you a lot of those guys, but I can pretty much, I feel comfortable saying 95% of those guys that walk in the room and go over to Coach Bowden to talk to him, because he had a relationship with all of us, that he could remember all of our names when we walk over.
All the names and your wife's name. That's amazing.
I most definitely can't do that, So
no, I can't either.
Yeah, but that was another thing that I admired about him is that his office was always open, and nobody was too big or too little, for him.
Right, for him. Kind to everybody. Beautiful story. Vic, thanks so much for sharing your story with us, man.
Yeah.
Hey, appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Thanks.
I appreciate you having me.
Appreciate you being on the show.
When do you think you're coming back home?
Actually, in a week, I should be home. I should be back home in a week. I was coming this weekend, but to see my mom. But I think my mom is going to Atlanta. She had a cousin of hers that had passed away, so she's going to Atlanta this weekend. So the following week, I'll be there, and if not this weekend, the following weekend, I'll be home.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, let's get in touch, man.
Yeah, let's get together.
Yeah,
let's get together.
I have your number. Mobley, I don't have yours, so
I'll send it to you. I'll send it.
When I get in town, I most definitely hit you up, man.
Yes.
Give you guys a call.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get together. I'll send it to you. Thanks so much, Vic.
Man, thank you.
Yeah, it was great having you on.
I appreciate you guys having me, man.
Thanks for your story. We'll talk to you soon.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Go
All right,
Tigers,
thanks.
Go Knowles. Thanks, buddy.
You
Thanks.
too, man. Appreciate you.
Right. Bye. Wow, that was awesome, Victor Floyd. What a story.
Wow.
What a great example. Another PHS graduate, successful. Everybody doesn't stay around their hometown. They move, right? They move around wherever your job, a lot of time, wherever your job takes you.
He's been around.
You've been around.
I mean,
But I don't go, just because you don't live your hometown doesn't mean it's still not your hometown. Always remember that. It's great to have Vic on. Thanks for being on, Hobbs. Appreciate it.
Love it.
Stay tuned for these messages with these great sponsors. This show wouldn't be possible if you liked it. Make sure you share it. So long, everybody. Have a great sports week.
Peace.
Arbitrium Consulting for all your fencing, landscaping, pressure washing, tree trimming needs. Call 850-483-0350 for your free estimates. Serving Pensacola, Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, Destin, Perdido, Gulf Shores, Foley, and the entire Gulf Coast. Arbitrium Consulting is owner-operated, fully licensed and insured. Call today, 850-483-0350, the official landscaper of Coach's Corner.
For 30 years, you have seen the orange Beck signs all over the Gulf Coast listing a property for sale or lease. Beck Partners is your trusted advisor in commercial real estate, property management, commercial and personal insurance. Senior Vice President David Valletto has been with Beck Partners since 1989. Take advantage of his wealth of knowledge by calling him today at 982-7352. 982-7352. Extensive experience in all aspects of leasing, sales, management, and site selection will make sure your expectations are exceeded.
Hey, Bama fans, this is Will Moore, president of the Pensacola Bama Club. You can find us at PensacolaBamaClub.com. We are your official alumni chapter in the Pensacola and surrounding areas. Membership is available to all alumni and all Bama fans, so come see us at one of our many events throughout the year. Our Bama football watch parties are the next best thing to being in Bryant-Denny Stadium. We even serve authentic stadium hot dogs. Membership, event, and contact information will be found on our website at PensacolaBamaClub.com. Roll Tide.
Did you know there's a place where you can get good neighbor service and surprisingly great rates on your home and auto insurance? Yep, and that place is, ta-da, State Farm. Here's the deal. State Farm agent Will Rentschler is your go-to agent in Pensacola, Florida for the service you deserve at the price that you want. So stop shopping around. State Farm agent Will Rentschler has you covered. Call 850-433-4678 for your surprisingly great rates today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Legal disclaimer, individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.